What's up, Navigating Academia family? I hope you guys are having a great week so far. I just want to make a brief video for you here from the new office. Welcome to the new office here in Barcelona, Spain. Wonderful country, wonderful people. Shout out to all of our Spanish subscribers out there. If you happen to be from Spain, or if your family is Spanish, be sure to say hi down in the comments below. Maybe you guys have some recommendations of stuff that Daria and I should check out here in Barcelona or in Spain in general. We would love to be able to hear it, and I'll make sure, I promise, that if you guys give any recommendations, Daria and I end up, let's say, going to a place, going to a restaurant, and so forth, I'll go ahead and post a photo of it on YouTube, on the community tab, and also I will make sure to kind of give you guys a shout out as well when that happens. So you'll see kind of a generic, more office-y background here. This is kind of a shared working space and all, but it's really a beautiful office, so I'm excited to be here. So what I thought that I would do today is to be able to share with you some crazy stories of mine in terms of the strangest things that have happened to me within academia. And I'm going to keep this video less than 10 minutes long, so we'll keep it nice and tight for you guys. I would say either number 4 and number 5 to me is the craziest, so be sure to stick around until the end. If you haven't had the pleasure of watching any of our other videos, please do feel free to do so. We would love to have you here in our community. We try to be very, very supportive of one another. You guys know me. I reply to virtually every single comment. I check the comments several times a day to be able to make sure that I'm actively involved in our community. So, without further ado, what are the weirdest things, like the strangest things that have ever happened to me in academia? Because academia is a really weird place to be in terms of a career field. And sometimes really amazing things can happen, right? And sometimes not so amazing things can happen, right? So, I mean, I've definitely had some weird things that are not amazing happen to me. So, for example, you know, both of my postdoc supervisors leaving my first semester when I was there, and then being told that there was basically nobody else to be able to serve as a supervisor for me in my field, but luckily there was kind of an OG person in my field who was there, who actually was willing to be able to take me on, and that was very generous. But in terms of junior colleagues, there basically wasn't anybody. So I've had some, you know, unfortunate incidents like that happen, but I've been very blessed to be able to have some really crazy, cool stuff happen as well. And I think oftentimes in academia, people either talk about the normal stuff, or they end up talking about really bad things that have happened to them, or how stressful stuff is, or, you know, the never-ending grant cycle, application cycle, and these things. So I want to give you guys some cool stuff, because I figure, you know, if you want to be in academia, there's a lot of good sides of it too. So I figured I'd give you some fun ones. So in no particular order, these are my 5. So the first one is that I published my first collegiate textbook when I was 21 years old. To be able to make a long story short, I still remember that I went to be able to do, not a career fair, but like a summer internship fair in the Department of Child Development when I was undergraduate at Tufts University. And it was so funny because, you know, all these professors were there, and they were all talking about undergraduate opportunities for things that you could do during the summer. And there was a gentleman who I hugely respect to this day. His name is Professor George Scarlett, and George got up and he basically said, we're going to be working on this collegiate textbook, and there's going to be 5 co-authors on the book, and we're looking for somebody to be able to kind of help all 5 of us out, and in exchange you'll get an acknowledgement on that book. Right, and what happened was that when I joined on, so you had George, you had an amazing doctoral student whose name was Iris Ponte, ended up being a second author on the book. George was the first author. And then we had 3 amazing other individuals, most of whom were postdocs or lecturers who were working at the department as well. But of those individuals, I believe one of them ended up kind of leaving for maternity leave for longer than was expected. There was somebody else who ended up just saying, I've just got too much work. I just cannot commit to this. This is way more time than I thought it was going to be. And then the third individual ended up getting a job elsewhere, which is very exciting for them. And so they ended up leaving. And so what happened is that after the first person ended up leaving, one of the chapters that they had been allocated, they didn't have anybody else who was willing to do it. And so I think I was 18, possibly 19, right? I was just like, hey, you know, can I try? Right? And I thought I was a good author. I was not a good author, right? But this experience really helped me tremendously in terms of honing my own skills, right? So that was kind of the first thing that ended up happening, was that person left, and the second person left, and there was another chapter that was open. Third person left, and there was a third chapter that was open. And at the end of it, I had written almost a third of the book, and Iris and George were under no obligation whatsoever to be able to invite me to be a co-author on that book at all. I would have been so honored and thrilled just to be acknowledged in that book, but they were overwhelmingly generous to someone as young as me, as inexperienced as me, to really mentor me and walk me through the process. And now that I've done 5 books, I can tell you that what I learned in terms of that first book just taught me like everything that I needed to know, right? So that was a big one for me. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I accidentally applied for a master's program. This is true. My junior year of college, I was at Yale at the time at Child Study Center, and so CSC, and which is in the medical school. And it was so funny because I was doing my summer internship, and I knew I wanted to apply to at least one master's program. And the Institute of Psychiatry at the Maudsley, which is over at KCL, King's College London, it to me is like the number 1 more clinically oriented master's in the UK. Obviously, people are going to argue with me about that, but in my opinion, that's what it is. And so what happened was that I filled out the whole application or whatever, and then I went to like save it. But apparently I somehow accidentally submitted it because I don't know what the heck happened, right? But I accidentally submitted it, and then 2 months later, I got like an acceptance letter. And I still remember there was a woman named Mary who sent it to me, congratulations, da, da, da. And I had to, it was so awkward because I had to write to her and be like, I really appreciate it, but I'm still an undergraduate, right? I have 1 year left before I could even apply for the master's or do the master's and all. And so she was, we both had a good laugh about it. And then she said, we'll just wait 1 year, and we want you, so then you can come. And so that was awesome. It took a lot of pressure off of me. That's my phone. It took a lot of pressure off of me because I knew that I had a place to go, and that was my number 1 choice for a master's program. And having that kind of a backup was awesome because I knew that they would get you really involved with publishing, really involved with clinical work. And so because I wanted to do a clinical psych PhD, this was something where those were necessary elements, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 was that I was never an assistant professor. I was postdoc, and then I worked for the Swiss government, for the Department of Justice, a senior clinical researcher in forensic psychiatry and psychology, and then my first tenure track position, I literally just went straight to associate professor, right? So this was at Molde University in Norway. I had the most phenomenal mentor ever in academia, who was this guy, Stahl Bjorkley. Means a huge amount, very like father figure to me, uncle figure to me. He stuck his head out. Very rarely, I talk about this on the channel a lot, right? Very rarely in life are you going to find people who really have nothing to gain from supporting you, but they still do it. And for me, he's that guy. He showed me that. He modeled that for me, and I try to do that for other people. So just remember how big of an impact you can have, right? And so he helped me, apply for tenure, and I got that the preceding year. And then after that, I applied for my full professorship. And so, I ended up being the youngest tenured full professor in the whole country of Norway at any university in any discipline. There was newspaper articles about it. I did a bunch of interviews. So that was really cool, and that was a real feather in my cap as kind of, a young academic. So anyway, that was that. Number 4 is that, which is true, I've never had a formal job interview, ever. Not one, for any job I've ever had, right? Now, my postdoc I did have an interview for. I don't know if we would call that a formal job, but certainly after kind of completing my formal education, I've never had a job interview for anything. Not for my Cambridge position, not for my UPenn position, not for my University of Constance Department of Psych position, not for my job in Switzerland. Not really. I mean, like I went over there and, we did wining and dining and these things that you usually do for these types of higher level positions. And then I started my own companies, right? And so because of that, there's never really been a formal job interview. And that's really weird, but this is why I'm always telling you guys about the importance of personal connections, okay? Building up that social capital is critical, especially if you're on the job market, okay? And we can talk about that. If you ever want to get a job in these things and do it in a really non-traditional way like I did, I'm happy to teach you step by step exactly how to do it, right? This is the reason why you guys can book sessions with me down at this website below. If you're just not sure exactly how to navigate these things, that's why I'm here for you, right? So make sure that, reach out if you need to, okay? And the last thing, which I'll just mention and then close the video, is that I played in a rock band for an organization called ATSA, and I was the lead singer in the band with a whole bunch of the different past presidents or executive board members of the association. Why? Because not a lot of people knew me at the time, and all of a sudden I'm the front man with all of these amazing and very talented past presidents of this university playing classic rock tracks at all the major conferences that they had annually. This was the coolest thing ever. And it was something also where everybody looked up and they were like, who the heck is that random, brown bald kid, right? Which was perfect for me because everybody was curious about who the heck I was. And all of a sudden, the number of people who got to know me and build a positive reputation because people were like, hey, if these other people kind of like who we already really respect, if they like this guy enough to let him be kind of a member of that in-group, then maybe we should get to know this guy as well. And that helped me tremendously. So again, network, and take advantage of really weird social capital building opportunities. So those are the 5 strangest things that have happened to me in academia. What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you? Let me know down in the comments below. All right, guys, peace and love. Share this video. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.